Hi, I'm the Godless engineer, and today on Did Jesus Exist, we're going to be discussing the genealogies of Jesus. Why we have different genealogies for him, and perhaps a better explanation as to why we find such vast differences in the lineage of Jesus. Before we get into that, though, I would like to kind of promote the book that I've pulled this information from, because it really has some good information in it, and I think that a lot of people can benefit from it. But it's Gospel Fictions by Randall Helms. That is what I'm pulling my information from today, as you can see from my Kindle. So I would highly suggest you going down to the description, checking it out, and if you like what you see, get the book and read it. It's got some really great information in it. If you're really looking to learn more about, the vast differences in the Gospels and why it's just all fiction. Also, before we get into our episode today, I would like to remind you guys about the Myth Information Conference that's going down in Milwaukee. I'm going to be attending. I am also going to be broadcasting live from the event. So if you happen to be in the Milwaukee area, close to it or whatnot, I would really like it if you guys could come and, get on camera with me so I can talk to you about your ideas on the historicity of Jesus. Even if you disagree with me as well as the other people that don't believe in the historical Jesus, if you do believe in a historical Jesus, I really want to talk to you. So, now, that all that's out of the way, let's get into the genealogies of Jesus. First up, let's talk about the different genealogies that we find. Only 2 of the 4 Gospels contain the lineage of Christ that appear, at least on the surface, to attempt to connect Jesus to King David so that it would fit in the prophecies outlined in the Old Testament. Mark and John have no clue about the lineage of Jesus and make no connection to David. They mostly focus on his teachings and his death. Because what is Christianity without the fucking guilt that comes with it? Am I right? Matthew and Luke, however, do cover the lineage of Jesus by tracing it back all the way to David to appease the prophecy that's attributed to. We know this because some of the phrases used in the New Testament actually refer back to the prophecies in the Old Testament. Like Daniel 7:13 and 14 says, I saw in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven there came one like a son of man, and he came to the Ancient of Days, and was presented before him. And to him was given dominion and glory and kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom one that shall not be destroyed. Now, as you can see in this passage, we have Son of Man, and talks about a great kingdom that will be ruled by that person and it will not be destroyed. This passage also gives us clear indication that this Son of Man shall be a heavenly being. So with these instances that connects the New Testament to the Old Testament, we can see that there's a clear reason why early Christians would feel a need for a, Davidic lineage for Jesus, connecting him to an earthly presence. But not all early Christians felt this need. There are 2 vastly different genealogies for Jesus outlined in both Matthew and Luke, despite the fact that Titus 3:9 and 1 Timothy 1:4 actually tell us to just fuck off with those genealogies. Both lineages pull from the Old Testament until they run out of names to blatantly fucking copy, or the line diverges from the biblical, in which they just start making shit up as they go, like real historians. This results in 2 very different genealogies for Jesus. Matthew's lineage traces Jesus back through his paternal line, showing that Jesus is directly descended from David. Luke does the same thing, but with a very blatant fucking issue. In Matthew's account, it progresses. Joseph was the son of Matan, who was the son of Eleazar, what the fuck ever. And then Luke, He says that Joseph is descended from Heli, who is descended from Matthat, who is descended from Levi. This means that after the lineage gets to David, both genealogies diverge at about a 45-degree angle between them. They, of course, converge back onto Joseph, so I guess maybe it's more like a hook shot from one. So these differences result in Matthew's genealogy having 41 generations and Luke's only having 27. The main reason for this difference is because of Matthew's shitty-ass treatment of the genealogy he inherited. Part of Matthew's genealogy was based on 1 Chronicles 2 and 3, which has 18 generations from David to Jeconiah. Matthew is lazy as fuck and drops like 4 names off the list from those chapters. Well, he's not actually lazy though, because he's just trying to fulfill a prophecy and not report what actually happened. This prophecy was actually more like a number pattern that he had a real hard-on for. It was a number 14. At this point, Matthew is going to seem really OCD because he not only drops 4 people off the genealogy, but he also says the phrase, "This was to fulfill what the Lord declared through the prophet," 14 times. He also has constructed a genealogy that can be broken down into 3 sets of 14, which ironically gives you 42 generations. Because, as we all know, the answer to the universe, life, and everything is 42. Now, I want to stress that 14 is not an actual prophetic fucking number. Matthew, what he did was he miscounted the generations that he inherited and decided that the number 14 was a prophetic number, even though there's no fucking indication of it actually being a prophetic number. So all of this is just made up in his own goddamn mind. Now, one big difference between our oldest gospel and Matthew and Luke is that Mark doesn't have any fucking clue about the miraculous birth of Jesus. Given that in Luke, Mary is visited by an angel and is given explicit instructions on the fact that she was, or was going to be, pregnant with a male child and explicitly tells her what to name him. Mark's ignorance on this important event is exemplified by Mark 3:21, which says, "And when his family heard about the appointing of the apostles and the declaration to be the Son of God, they went out to seize him, for they were saying, 'He is out of his mind.'" If Mary had actually been visited by an angel of the Lord and was told that she was going to bear a child with exact instructions on what to name him and that he would be the Messiah, I don't think that she'd be fucking surprised by the fact that Jesus did this. More likely, I think that she would just stand off to the side acting like, "That's my boy." So Mark's Jesus has no prophetic announcement by an angel of God, and his birth wasn't considered miraculous. Mark's community of, more than likely, Romans had no need for a Davidic Christ because at one point, Mark 12:35 through 37, he has Jesus saying, "David himself calls him Lord. How can he also be David's son?" So basically, Christ's logic in this instance is, David called God Lord. Well, I'm the Lord, therefore I cannot be related to David. Personally, after going through my logical fallacy series, that does sound pretty sound, at least at first glance. If you find a problem with his logic there, let me know in the comments below. In the first century, there were obviously 4 vastly different communities of Christians, and this is exemplified by the Gospels themselves. Now, there were 2 communities that had no need whatsoever for a Davidic lineage for Jesus. However, there were 2 other communities that did feel a strong need to connect Jesus to King David. The 2 communities with no lineage only had a need for a Davidic link to Jesus in the legal sense, like through an adoptive father. The 2 communities with genealogies had vastly different accounts due to the interpretations of the Old Testament. Now, this is where it's going to get a little bit confusing because of the way the Gospels are constructed versus the different communities previously mentioned. Due to copying from Mark, and subsequently Luke's copying from Matthew, Matthew and Luke contain contradictory claims on a massive scale. Both Gospels assert that Jesus was both conceived by the Holy Spirit and the biological son of Joseph. The first part is due to copying from Mark, which didn't need a Davidic lineage for Jesus. Thus, he was conceived by the Holy Spirit, which gave him his messiahship. With Luke being copied from both Matthew and Mark, his gospel also has Jesus having a miraculous conception that gave him his Messiah status. Now, the biological contradiction made in both of these Gospels with tracing Jesus' lineage back came from these earlier Jewish Christian communities that felt the need to have Jesus be the physical son of David. When both of these Gospels were constructed, they merged the two groups of early Christians together, giving Jesus both a miraculous birth as well as the biological link to Joseph. Now, it's pretty obvious that Matthew and Luke merged genealogies that came from two separate groups. That's how we know that there were four, because you had Mark's group, and then you had the group with Matthew who copied from Mark, obviously, but also worked in their own genealogy for Jesus because they felt the need for it. Luke did the same thing with their own particular group, and then John's just kind of fucking out there like a weird ass. This melding of the two opinions, having a Davidic lineage for Jesus with his father being placed here on earth, as well as a spiritual one, really pissed off some early Christians, and it caused a lot of discourse. This is blatantly clear because Justin Martyr specifically states that some of his Christians at the time rejected this idea that Jesus was divine or divinely conceived because it sounded way too much like pagan beliefs. He even goes further to cite some Roman mythology with Zeus and impregnating an earthly woman and whatnot. So it's pretty clear that not all Christians like this idea of having a spiritual father for Jesus and not having him actually being fathered here on earth. Although, as we can tell, that, Justin Martyr's, his opinion actually won out over the Christian world. Eventually, those that felt like, this spiritual father for Jesus was an intrusion on their religion via the pagan beliefs, those were stifled out pretty quick, and Justin's view kind of overtook the Christian world. Thank you for joining me today on Did Jesus Exist? I hope you like the information that I provided in this. I would like to cite again that I pulled my information from the book Gospel of Fictions by Randall Helms. If you're really more interested in getting deeper into information like this, I suggest you going and checking out his book and reading up on it. I will be pulling in some more information from his book, as well as David Fitzgerald's, and soon Bart Ehrman. Yeah. So please stay tuned to this series as I travel through my thought process as far as determining whether or not Jesus existed, whether you should believe that or not. I hope that you will continue this journey by going down and subscribing. Subscribe so you can get all of my video updates and whatnot. And be sure to hit that little gear icon and put me on notifications so that you know exactly when I upload a video. If you're in the Milwaukee area, I would like to stress again to come to the Myth Information Conference and possibly be on camera with me as I broadcast live directly from the event. And as always, don't forget to